Hello and welcome back to the GB Fantasy Football channel. Today is my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 23 deadline on Sun Dream Team. Now don't forget it is a Friday deadline, I believe at 6:30 UK time that is. So don't miss out, don't get caught out and get your transfers done nice and early. We're going to be covering the latest transfer news, injury news for all teams, the highest price rising assets, and towards the back end of the video we will be covering my latest transfer plans ahead of that fast approaching deadline. And without further ado, let's crack on with the video. Of course, with all final thoughts videos on the channel, we will be covering the latest transfer news and team news in general for all the teams that are relevant to our current transfer plans across the board, covering the highest price rising assets and finishing off with my latest and potentially final transfer plans ahead of the Game Week 23 deadline. If you have enjoyed the trifecta of videos on the channel this week, the back to back to back across Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, do smash a big thumbs up on the video. 100 is always a target for Dream Team content. And also hit the subscribe button while you're down there. We're on the road to 2,000 on the channel. We're coming up to 1 year since the channel was created. So hopefully we can hit that milestone together at least going forward. Plenty of things to discuss. Starting off with Arsenal. Now, last night they did get through to the second round. Well, get through the second leg, of the Carabao Cup semi-final against Chelsea, which means their game against Wolves has been brought forward into Game Week 24, so they do now double. Only 1 week, unfortunately, with no injury news. They had a full squad for literally 1 week. 3 people gone down with injury. Saka pulled up in the warm-up, I believe it was, away to Leeds. Didn't play that one, didn't play the Carabao Cup semi-final either. He will be out for a couple of weeks and they are targeting his return against Tottenham away. I think it's in Game Week 25 for that, so he will be ruled out for the next few game weeks. If you do have him, looks like a sell. Martin Odegaard, also another player, got a kick on the leg, we believe. Came on off the bench against Leeds, and despite being able to manage people's minutes, Arsenal are continuing to pick up injuries along the way. It's not ideal. Moreno, also another player. We do think he's broken his foot in training. So going forward, he's going to miss a lot of the season for Arsenal. He's going to be potentially not even involved in the Spain squad for the World Cup going forward in June. So if he does come back, it's going to be towards the back end of May anyway. So his participation is under big threat. Moving over to Aston Villa, Watkins faces a late fitness test. He missed out the game the previous week. Tammy Abraham played against Brentford. So once again, if you've got him, it's going to be difficult. This is being recorded before Man City play Newcastle in the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. So for time-wise, we're not really getting too much from the press conferences this week. It's a really quick turnaround for the Friday deadline on Dream Team. A lot of the press conferences are like Friday morning, so we're not really hearing too much. John McGinn and Yuri Tielemans might not also return till March either with their respective injuries, which means Douglas Luiz's minutes could be a lot higher than first anticipated. Moving over to Manchester City, Diaz returned to training on Monday, which is good for Man City fans and them going forward. Looked a bit shaky at the back without Diaz and Cavadio, but at least Diaz is back into the side. For Kuznov owners like myself, it's going to provide a bit of a dilemma. Will he play against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup semi-final? Of course, when you see this video, you will, of course, have seen the lineups and the result. But for me, as time of recording this, still a bit unclear. Gay, not necessarily playing that one, of course. He has been ineligible because he played and wasn't registered before the first leg, which also would mean that he misses the final should City get there, which isn't ideal. Turkey picked up a knock against Tottenham in the first half, battled on into the second half, took his goal really well, but that's definitely something to note going forward. Lots of options. If he's got a slight niggle, he will be down on the bench. Over to Chelsea, didn't really do too much in that Carabao Cup semi-final against Arsenal. They kept it tight, 5 at the back, sat off Arsenal. Arsenal didn't need to really do too much going forward in that one. Still had a goal lead from the first leg at Stamford Bridge. Left it to the last 30 minutes, brought on Esteval and Palmer, and overall, you'd say they still lacked a little bit of attacking intensity. Pedro looked decent on the ball, but didn't really offer too much going forward. And Palmer's minutes are still being managed. Dream Team will be a better place with him as an asset, but unfortunately that doesn't look like it's going to be the case anytime soon. Reece James and Pedro Neto also missed that fixture. Slight knocks, but should be back for the game at the weekend. Moving over to Liverpool, Konate returned last week with a goal. Family issues seem to be behind him. And also, Isak isn't back for the foreseeable future. So Ekatike owners, lots of minutes to be had there. Moving over to Tottenham now, we could have a 25-minute segment on Tottenham's current injury crisis. Van der Ven and Romero both remain doubts, but should be back for the game against Man United at the weekend. A really, really tricky game. The reverse fixture of this earlier in the season was a really good watch. Also, could be without up to, I think it's at least 8 first-team players in this one across the board. So very thin on the ground squad-wise. And finishing it off over at Nottingham Forest, Matt Sells was rushed off and forced off at half-time in the game against Nottingham Forest. For Nottingham Forest against Crystal Palace. They've just signed Ortega from Manchester City, so Ortega could make his debut in that one. I think he's a £3 million asset. Forest slowly becoming better defensively with a double game week in 25, a single in 24. They're out of the FA Cup. So double this week, single in 24 and a double in 25 might be an option if Sells is ruled out for the foreseeable future. Moving over to the highest price rising assets going into game week 23, and the list isn't quite as big as it was in the previous week. Of course, the player on these lists are predicted to go up 0.3 in value, and that's from not only FPL.co.uk, fantastic website, not a sponsored segment, but it really does help us plan our teams for this game week and future game weeks going forward. Now, first up, Gabriel Jesus. Didn't play in the second leg of the Carabao Cup. Got the goals, I believe it was, against Leeds, so took his goal quite well. He will go up 0.3, whether or not you want to go there. Of course, each week it is a toss-up between him and Victor Gyökeres, who's starting up front. Also, Kai Havertz got a run out up front last night for Arsenal, so 3 potential options. Lots of dilemma up there. Madueke, another one. With Saka being out, we do think Madueke will play both in this game week. He got the goal given to him eventually. It did go down as an own goal first. It's going to be a short-term punt over the next 2 weeks. He should also play against Wigan in the FA Cup in game week 24, unless they go with Trossard or Max Dowman comes back into it after his injury layoff. So Madueke could be a really good shout over the next few game weeks. Nkapie, another one, played left back in both fixtures surprisingly, considering he's just coming back from injury. Did okay, of course, 2 clean sheets in back-to-back games. Will Calafiori play at left back this week? I think when Calafiori is fit, he is the first choice left back. But the big thing is if he is fit, and that's been the case for the majority of the season. Cucurella at Chelsea, scoring points, got the goal last week in the comeback win against West Ham. Solid asset, but we've seen that Jurel Hato can play in that left-hand side. Whether or not he'll go back there after bringing Cucurella on at half-time against West Ham is still yet to be seen. You can only rotate so much before it affecting your performance, especially in the squad that's not necessarily blessed with lots of quality across an 18-man squad like Chelsea's. Over to Nottingham Forest, Gibbs White took his goal really well against Crystal Palace. He'll be going up 0.3. Konate, Ekitike and Wirtz all up 0.3 in value. Wirtz really coming into his own in the last 4 to 6 game weeks. Ekitike scored 2 against Newcastle after a little brief period in the Premier League that was without some returns, but still picking them up in the Champions League along the way. So on Dream Team, that's fantastic for points. Konate also offering a little, I'd say, differential to Van Dijk at the back if you really wanted to go there. Nothing to pick from right back, of course, too many injuries for Liverpool. And left back, they do keep switching between Robertson and Kirkes. Bernardo Silva for Manchester City has to have an asterisk next to his name. He is going up 0.3 currently, but with Newcastle still to play, that will go down if he does get involved and doesn't pick up too many points. And finishing off with Tottenham, a couple of players in the attacking side of things, Xavi Simons and Dominic Solanke, both going up 0.3. Solanke got credited with both goals. Xavi Simons pulled out an incredible performance, and you'd expect Tottenham, with such a thin squad, to be playing both these players once again. So what player on that list catches your eye the most? To round the video off, my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 23 deadline, covering my own squad and the potential transfers in and out. Currently on 74 points, down to nearly 1,500 in the world, so it's been an absolutely disastrous week. The second Saka pulled up in the warm-up, it was always destined to be one of them ones. In the last 3 weeks, I've mentioned it in my initial planned video, Matheus Nunes missed a complete double for me. Pedro Porro played 45 minutes against Burnley, didn't come out for the second half, and didn't play against Eintracht Frankfurt in the Champions League with the captaincy armband on him. And then this week, Saka, a complete no-show as well. So out of the last 3 game weeks, I've technically lost 4 full players. 2, Porro being the captaincy on him, Nunes and Saka. So I've probably missed out on between 30 and 60 points just for generically turning up and picking up a few bits and pieces. Not necessarily any clean sheets along the way for those defensive assets, or Saka picking up goals and assists. So it's really hurt the rank massively. Not too sure what I could have done with any of those assets along the way. Any three of them. Nunes missed out with the flu, Porro pulled up with a hamstring injury, and Saka got a bang on the hip in the warm-up. So it's not anything that we could have pre-planned, and unfortunately it has affected the rank massively. I think any team, even if you're at number 1 to number 5 millionth in the world, if you're without those three assets, who are three of the most high-scoring assets this season, it's going to affect your rank, and that's enough for the excuses part of things. Moving into next week, I've got four glaring issues in my team. The captaincy armband is currently on Erling Haaland, vice captaincy on Pedro Porro. Now the big issues: Kujanov, Cherki, Saka and Foden. Two of them, injury doubts. Of course, with Cherki, I will see more with regards to the Newcastle fixture tonight. Kujanov, I don't expect him to play from now on. Diaz and Gay will be the centre-half pairing if he does come through the fitness this week and he does play against Newcastle perfectly fine. That is Diaz. So Kujanov is an issue. It was always going to be short-term. He's done okay for points, a couple of price rises as well, so he's been okay. But the problem is, this problem has come with all the other problems all at once. Saka has been ruled out, so Saka has to leave the team this week. And also Phil Foden. I think he scored about 6 points in 4 game weeks altogether. It's something ridiculous. But I've got an issue with Foden. We'll get to that in just a little bit. So for Saka coming out, looking at the fixtures going forward into game week 23 and 24, Newcastle double in both, Arsenal double in both. Will you expect the same players to play against Wigan at home than you will Wolves away? Not at all. Someone like a Jurrien Timber. I've looked at my squad, and the biggest point scoring players that I don't currently have in my team, Dominic Szoboszlai and Jurrien Timber. Do I get them both into my team for Saka and Kujanov? Is that the way forward? Timber surprisingly played both games this week, so does that mean he's going to get a rest against Sunderland at home? I don't think so. I think Timber will play this one, and I do think the Wigan game will be where Ben White comes into the team. So I'm backing Timber to play against Sunderland and Brentford. You look across the board, I've been very big on Jarrod Bowen this week. I do think going forward, Jarrod Bowen, we've seen this week he's got Burnley away, Man United at home, Burton away, and then Bournemouth in the single game week for game week 25. Then I think it's a double in 26 as well. Sorry, a single in 26. So Jarrod Bowen could be an option going forward. Wolves now double in 23 and 24. Do you want to go for someone such as, I think it's Mane in midfield? I'm not too sure on that one. Crystal Palace assets are catching my eye. Daniel Munoz, Ismail Assar now on penalties. Could Munoz come in for Kujanov at the back? All his point scoring, we spoke about this on the transfer target video yesterday, came pretty much prior to Palace selling Gay to Manchester City, so that is something to note. He offers a lot of attacking threat. For Crystal Palace, Brighton away and Burnley at home in 23. The Conference League playoff in 24 is a single, and then Wolves at home and the Conference League second leg playoff in 25. So they double twice in the next 3 game weeks. I do think he might be popular, but we do have to taper our expectations a little bit. So maybe Ekitike, maybe Wirtz, maybe Szoboszlai coming in for Saka. Maybe I'll go 4-4-2 and bring in Munoz, Sarr, maybe Timber coming into the team as well. I think I'm good on Chelsea assets. Declan Rice, also another one that piqued my interest a little bit. But if you take away the assist, I know it's easy to say that, but if you take away that last minute assist where Chelsea had already pushed on lots of players, Declan Rice was coming away with 6 points from a double game week. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm happy with Fernandes. I'm happy with Rodgers. I think I've got a lot more fires to put out. I'm also contemplating Bruno Fernandes. Now, Bruno Fernandes is an interesting player. I still do have my 12th man chip available, and I think 12 man in Bruno this week could be a really good shout. Man United have got Tottenham at home and West Ham away, but most importantly, they blank in 24, so I wouldn't have to deal with that. I'd save a transfer by bringing him in. I'd save a transfer by taking him out in 24. But it's, do you want him for Everton away in 25 as well? Now, personally, I'd like to captain Bruno Fernandes if he was in my team, but if he's a 12th man, I can't do that, unfortunately, and that is a really sad thing. I'm not sure why you can't captain your 12th man, because they are still part of your squad. I do feel like that is something that Sun Dream Team should look at going forward. They're technically a player on your squad. Why can't you captain them? It's also a good week for max captain. Once again, if I go for Bruno Fernandes as a 12th man, I can't use my max captaincy. I can't see Haaland doing too much away to Liverpool at Anfield. It's just that Fulham game. We saw what he did in the reverse fixture. I think he got a goal, a couple of assists, if my memory serves right. But Matt's captaincy, really good game week. So I'm kind of leaning towards playing a chip this week for the first time. Throughout the season, my chip usage has been absolutely woeful. I think Cherky was my highest substitute chip out of all five at 9 points. My goal bonus, I got 0 points. 0 points, not a single goal on the goal bonus. So I'm a little bit reluctant to use the last two just in fear of failure of using them both. So currently I'm leaning towards maybe a Liverpool asset coming in, potentially a Crystal Palace player. Bruno, if I don't go for the 12th man in Bruno, if I lean more towards a max captaincy. But I do feel like a chip will be played this week. Saka will be coming out of the squad. Kuzanov will be coming out of the squad as well. And then I've got my fingers crossed for Cherky and Foden, specifically Foden to pick up his form. But also any Manchester City fans out there before I wrap this segment up. Man City have got Liverpool away and Fulham at home in game week 23. Now Foden hasn't been starting for you currently. Do you feel like he starts that Salford game in game week 24? Now we saw it in the last round. Semenyo played that one. He'd just come into the squad. Haaland also played against Exeter, but I think with Marmoush back in the team now, Marmoush will play that Salford game. But do you think, as a Manchester City fan, and also fans of football in general, do you feel like Foden has more chance of starting that Salford game? Now he's not started as many, which would mean he is a keep going into 24 as well. This man somehow keeps on plodding on in my team despite not scoring points and affecting my rank massively. So there are my current thoughts going into game week 23. A chip is more than likely to be used. Kuzanov and Saka coming out, and then lots of options to go in as well. Leave a comment down below on what your biggest dilemmas are going into that deadline. That does indeed conclude my game week 23 final thoughts and the third video in back-to-back days on the channel this week. So don't forget, go check it out. It's been plenty of good content on the channel. You might have missed it. Not necessarily the Monday, so Tuesday, Thursday, Friday normal upload schedule. It's been Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The deadline for Dream Team this week is Friday, I believe, at 6:30 p.m. UK time. So get your team set in well in advance. Don't get caught out by the early deadline. I think Forest play in that fixture. So maybe someone like an Elliot Anderson could be a player that you want to bring in just so you have a player in that team to watch on Friday night. Now, with all videos on the channel, 100 is the target. 100 likes, that is the target. Hit the subscribe button down below. Wow, this outro is really difficult at the minute. Hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss an upload in your sub boxes in the future. All the socials are in the description, Instagram, X and TikTok, all that good stuff. Also, the Sun Dream Team League is down there, down below. Leave a comment in the comment section what your biggest dilemmas are, what your potential transfer plans are, and what you are hoping for the games at the weekend, and maybe plans going into the FA Cup, single and double for some teams in 24 as well. Now that does indeed conclude today's video, and you'll be seeing me in a new one very soon.